Hey everyone, John and the rest of the GVG crew here, and I have always loved jumping, big jumping fan, and there are many jumping video games out there, and so me and my friends are going to be telling you about 30 different platforming games you can play right now on Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. I'm not even going to yab about it, let's just go, let's just do it, go!
Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap is a remake of one of my favorite Sega Master System games, and it's also Lizard Cube's very first title. So if you love Streets of Rage 4, if you're in love with Shinobi Art of Vengeance, this is where they got their start. Back in 2017, in the first year of the Switch, they released this absolute beauty of a game, and unlike their other efforts, Wonder Boy and the Dragon's Trap is a one-to-one remake of the original Sega Master System title, and it does this really cool thing where if you just hit the L button, it transitions back to the original Sega Master System graphics, just proving that this is just a one-for-one remake of the game. It's got their signature art style, everything that you love about Lizard Cube is here, and it's all wrapped around one of Sega's best 8-bit classics. If you haven't checked it out, you absolutely should.
I mean, come on. Super Mario Odyssey is one of the best platformers ever made, if not one of the best games ever made. This is Mario at his best. He controls the best he ever has, his movement options are the best he's ever had, there's more things to collect than in any other Mario game to date. Also, you can put Mario in silly little outfits, and that's worth 150 points on its own. Super Mario Odyssey is a celebration of Mario as a brand, Mario as a character. There's so much love put into this game. If you haven't played Super Mario Odyssey yet, what's wrong with you?
Cave Story is one of the greatest games of all time. One of the best soundtracks, one of the best stories, some of the best mechanics. And you might be questioning, is this a platformer? Well, you do a lot of jumping. I think we define platformers as big old jumpy games, so it's definitely a very platformy Metroidvania type game, but it rocks so flippin' hard, so we're going to count it here anyway. This revolutionized the entire indie landscape, being made by just one guy. And there was a time where there were countless versions of Cave Story, but the Switch version from 2017 is the last release, and also the definitive release. It's in widescreen, the visuals have never been this good, and there's even exclusive gameplay features like an entire co-op mode, which doesn't exist in any other version. And yes, it is quite hard to play this game with two people, but the fact that you can is why it's so cool. Cave Story is just so imaginative, so fun, and it can be incredibly challenging if you go for the true ending. But if you do, that turns you into a pro gamer. So consider doing it.
I completely missed out on the original Klonoa despite being a massive PlayStation 1 fan, but fortunately I did not miss Klonoa 2, as that got a lot of glowing praise in the lead up to its release in gaming magazines at the time, and I picked it up as soon as it released, finding a simply wonderful game that just captured my imagination and really did provide some legit thrills in a lot of its boarding sequences, especially at the time, the graphics of falling such a great distance that as somebody that's a little afraid of heights, that I could actually kind of feel my stomach go up into my chest. That same sort of feeling from a roller coaster. And that makes it stick out so much in my mind, and thankfully, its remakes on the Switch, Klonoa Fantasy Reverie series, still stands out. The original is tightly paced and still a ton of fun, with a story that will get you way more invested than you would ever think. And having them both together on the Switch is a fantastic deal. I cannot recommend Klonoa enough. It is just one of my underdog favorites of games, and if you haven't tried it yet, I would absolutely recommend it.
Kirby went for a pretty significant amount of time before his very first proper 3D platformer. He's relied so much on the 2D formula, and while it has proven successful, we were feeling a bit of that burnout after Star Allies. But Kirby and the Forgotten Land flew onto the scene, and it is wonderful. For the most part, this game played exactly how I imagined a 3D title for this series would, and I don't mean that in a negative or predictable way. The game isn't difficult by any means, but the level design is imaginative and fun with this underlying ruined civilization aesthetic. There are fewer copy abilities than in other titles, but you can upgrade the ones you have after earning the right materials. This gave a welcome layer to Kirby's arsenal and also incentivized you to play more of the game and its challenge areas. Every Waddle Dee Kirby saves goes towards developing your central hub. There's missions within levels to encourage replays, and of course, Kirby can turn into a car. Malfo mode is more so an excuse to let Kirby do weird specific things in dedicated sections, but it works well. I personally enjoy Kirby as a massive water balloon, spraying everything like it's Mario Sunshine, until I realize I'm playing a better game. I think this accomplishes everything that a Kirby title needed to in 3D. It doesn't push the series forward to an exceptional degree, aside from adding a new dimension of course, but that's perfectly fine. It doesn't stop the Forgotten Land from being one of the most comfy and charming titles on Switch, where I was allowed to give Kirby a gun.
Super Mario Maker is one of my favorite Nintendo series of all time because it basically gives us the keys to the Mushroom Kingdom, literally. This is the only time in Nintendo's long history that they've given us something akin to the development tools they use to create wonderful 2D platforming experiences, and the community has gone absolutely wild with these in the best way. I'm still addicted even now to watching players just make their way through some of the craziest levels that the Mario community can think of, and this has just the built-in satisfaction of those wonderful 2D Mario controls. Now, I'd love to see a Mario Maker 3 for the Switch 2 with mouse controls and maybe a Wonder theme, but it can't be denied that this is just an excellent package. Mario Maker 2 lets you create anything you can think of, as long as you can beat it yourself, and put that out for the whole community to try. Not to mention the fact that Nintendo designed a bunch of their own levels in Mario Maker 2 that you can try and challenge yourself with. This is just, as most Mario games, one of the best platformers out there, and it'd be crazy not to include this on a list for the best Switch platformers of all time.
It's almost difficult to know what to say about Celeste because its legacy is undoubtable. People love Celeste. Why do you need me to tell you to play Celeste? In fact, you probably already have played Celeste. If you've somehow missed this game, yeah, it's worth going back to. It is a ton of fun, a real challenge in terms of its platforming, and has a wonderful story to wrap it all up together, and worthwhile to fully complete. In fact, it's a true challenge to fully complete, whether you have the B-sides and certainly the C-sides. And the way that you weave through these levels and see the journey unfold leads to some magical moments. I played this during a train ride. I had my headphones in, was just locked in as I was rolling down the train, and so many great emotional moments happened that I just got myself lost in this game and made the time traveling pass by so quickly. It really is a standout indie, and if you've not tried it, somehow fix it. It is so much fun.
Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is one of the most improved sequels of all time. Returns was already a good game, but Tropical Freeze is better in every single way, every conceivable way. The soundtrack is greatly better. The locations are so much better. It's got Dixie Kong, which Returns didn't have Dixie Kong. No good. What makes both games great though is everything is very grounded in Donkey Kong. Nothing floats apart from the bananas, and so every platform is stitched into the environment, making this very cohesive world. And then Tropical Freeze takes it even further with these magnificent level themes that keep bleeding into each other and telling microscopic stories within the game world. The only real fault I have with this game are the bonus rooms are a bit dull, but you can very easily avoid them and just play the good stuff. And then you are rewarded with pure platforming perfection, magnificent mechanics, magnificent levels, and so many robust and interesting ideas, and it's just spectacular to look at and play.
I'm a sucker for low poly graphics, N64 style, PlayStation 1 style, and Toree scratches that itch real good. Not only that, it is a relatively brisk-paced platformer with just a few levels, but honestly, the vibes are off the charts, the controls feel fantastic, and Toree's just a cute little guy. The developer of Toree has made several Toree games, as well as all kinds of other weird 3D platformers and even 2D platformers. You should play every entry in the Toree series, and as well as expand out into some of the other games that they've worked on, because they understand the vibes of the platformers of yesteryear. And with a bumpin' soundtrack, awesome visuals, and great controls, what more could you really ask for?
No matter how much Sonic may fumble, there are always those moments where the series and the community itself shines. Before the release of Sonic Mania, some of us really weren't sure where this hedgehog was going. Sega literally gave members of the Sonic fan game and modding community their blessing and would publish this celebratory title, essentially a remix of what makes 2D Sonic so iconic. While it did take zones from Sonic 1, 2, 3, and CD, there was also the inclusion of 4 completely new zones with their own mechanics that made them feel right at home with the classics. And that's not to say the returning zones were ripped straight from the source or anything. While many do feature key and memorable set pieces from their game of origin for Act 1, it was always Act 2 that stood out the most. The team took so many creative ideas and fleshed out the zones in ways that we could never have imagined, like chemical plants bouncy gels that send you flying, or setting Oil Ocean on fire. It even has great special stages for collecting the Chaos Emeralds. Those were always kinda hit or miss for me. This entire title is a fantastic love letter to anyone who even remotely likes Sonic, packed with references and cameos as much as it's flooding with original ideas. Everything from the sprite work, the music, and the amazing animations, it just makes everything in the Sonic shade room in my brain happy. It even brought back Mighty and Ray in its DLC expansion. Now, if we can just get Sega to let this team work on a sequel, where is it, y'all?
I'm on record saying Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a Metroidvania, and I stand by that, but Metroidvanias can contain some compelling platforming segments. In fact, the best of the genre almost always do. Metroid Dread, Hollow Knight, and now Shinobi Art of Vengeance. And I have to say, platforming in this game feels amazing, and it actually puts some pretty tough challenges to you in the later parts of the game, particularly in the Anku rifts. Running, jumping, slashing, dive kicking, all of that as Joe Musashi is incredibly satisfying, and if you've ever played Revenge of Shinobi on the Sega Genesis, his jumps feel exactly the same, and I've always wanted a game that focused more on platforming while having those exact same physics that Sega nailed back in the early 90s. Now we finally have it with the latest entry in the Shinobi series, and I gotta say, if you love platformers and you like action games, you're gonna find a lot to love in Art of Vengeance.
Super Mario Bros. Wonder is what we all wished New Super Mario Bros. Was up to this point. It was great getting Mario back with the original New Super Mario Bros., but the ideas never really seemed to flow. It just seemed so basic, even though they were still fine as far as games when it came to the other New Super Mario Bros. Games. And Super Mario Bros. Wonder just completely blows them all out of the water. The sheer level of creativity, the wonderful new graphics, and everything that that game has to offer really does stand out. But personally, for me, this is one of the first games I ever played with my son. And it was one of his first ever games as well, where he loved switching between all the different characters. It's how he really got to know Peach and Daisy and Toad and Toadette and all the Yoshis and Nabbit and all these Mario characters, and he would want to switch between each and every one of them, see what they could all do, and I could see his abilities just increase as time went on, because unfortunately for myself, he took my 100% save file and deleted it. But it ended up not mattering because we have since beat that game 6 or 7 times. We have beaten this game together so much, and it still stands out as just a delight. And it was great to seeing him get better as a player and learn to do a lot of this on his own, even though it needed my help at some points. But Yoshi, having Yoshi in that invincibility is great for kids. So I have just a lot of personal memories with this one, and it's just fun all on its own.
Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble is my favourite Monkey Ball game of them all. And we're not counting the party games, which sounds sacrilege for a Monkey Ball game, but just the core single player is as good as it gets. There's some of the best design courses in the entire series here. But what really ties it all together is the spin dash. You can just build up a bunch of momentum and release it whenever you want. So you can use this to save yourself if you have too much speed, just reverse yourself in the other way, and that's going to bring you almost like a break to a stop. Or you can use that momentum for a huge burst of speed. You can just jump off an edge, bump into a corner, do whatever you want, and pull off some really slick maneuvers just by throwing yourself off the edge and falling into the goal. Now again, you may be wondering, is Monkey Ball a platformer? Well look, there may not be a jump button, but I'm definitely jumping into the goal here, so I think we can count this as a puzzle platformer, kinda. Depends how you play. Really though, this game is severely underrated. And yes, the core multiplayer, the party games, aren't that great in this one. It's kind of like a take on Fall Guys rather than stuff like Monkey Target and Monkey Bowling. But just the core adventure is as good as Monkey Ball has ever been. And I solely recommend it just on that. And you can play the single player in multiplayer too, both online and offline, and it rocks playing it like that.
Love 3D platformers so much. New Super Lucky's Tale? It's a good 3D platformer, love that game. Lucky hasn't been so lucky with having hit games. There's Lucky's Tale and Super Lucky's Tale, but this is a refined version of Super Lucky's Tale. New Super Lucky's Tale. It's a well-designed 3D platformer with easy-to-learn controls, cute characters, and is largely a breezy experience. For me, this was one of the first games in the 3D platformer renaissance that we've been having recently, and I really want New Super Lucky's Tale to get a sequel, or just another chance. Come on, look at him. He's begging for it. The game's story takes itself pretty seriously, but there's still lots of silly moments like the farm with all the worms putting on a harvest festival. It's weird, but I love it. I'll champion New Super Lucky's Tale until I die.
I have never played a game like Animal Well before, and I feel like I'm not going to for a very long time. It is such a weird and mysterious little title. I heard all the hype and I was told to jump into it with very little knowledge of what I was getting myself into. There's no prologue, no intro, or exposition of your main named characters. You're just a little blob. Nothing is explained to you, nothing is hinted at or initially guiding you. You simply awaken in a grassy area and get moving. You can't do much more than jump, at least not until you start finding your items that take the form of these children's toys. The art style is surreal. There is this retro CRT feel laid over the game, giving it a unique neon glow as you explore these caves. This may be more aligned to be a Metroidvania, but it is so finely tuned and catered to people who just want to get lost in a world and discover its secrets for themselves. As you wander around and interact with all types of animals, you discover that this game really doesn't have much text at all. Everything has to be inferred and determined through analysis, especially if you want to find this game's most hidden secrets. Billy Basco took this 7-year project and developed something that left a lasting impression on its players, and I just hope that more people join this experience with us as well.
It's 2025, so of course Silksong is going to be on this list, and if you're wondering what makes Silksong a decent platformer, then you probably haven't played the game yet, because Team Cherry has crafted some really incredibly tough platforming challenges hidden within this game. There are some obvious things, like using Hornet's downward slash to bounce off of objects. You'll be doing that all the time throughout the game, and all of the maps are incredibly vertical, leading you to have to run and jump your way to your next objective more often than not. But there are also some pretty tricky platforming sections nestled away in hard to reach areas, particularly in the later game, that will require you to use all of your reflexes and every single move in Hornet's repertoire just to make it to the end. And these can be really steep challenges even for platforming veterans. If you don't know what I'm talking about, find Mount Faye, go have fun with that. You are going to have a blast just making your way through that section. It's strictly a platforming area. There are very few enemies, and it's just about running, jumping, and having the right timing to be able to do everything while chaining a bunch of techniques together to reach a pretty satisfying end goal. I love Silksong overall, but it is one of the best platforming experiences I've had in 2025.
It's odd. When I think about Mega Man, I typically think shooter before platformer, but no, Mega Man has plenty of platforming in it as well, and Mega Man 11 is no different. It is still marked as the latest actual entry in the series, which feels crazy because it did so well, but Mega Man is also a series that never sells super well. The fact that 1 million is typically really good for the series is kind of a shame because he has such a legacy, such a presence in the gaming space, and yet not everybody experiences his games, and there is challenge to that. And yes, Mega Man 11 certainly can be challenging at points. I certainly struggled when I took on Torchman stage first, and there is a chase sequence that I simply could not do for a little while. But the fun of Mega Man is switching it up to different levels, figuring out ways that you can get through, and then using those abilities to make other levels easier. It's something that's been established since the first game. It still carries over into this 11th game, but I do want to focus on the platforming because the platforming is a lot of fun. There's a Bounce Man stage stands out as one that really focuses on the platforming and how you weave through the level and deal with the enemies as you go through. And Torchman stage is definitely a platforming challenge if you actually want to do it legit and not freeze the wall of fire that's going for you. That's the key thing here, is that the shooting is definitely a key part of it, but the platforming is no slouch either and still stands up as a lot of fun.
I'm primarily going to talk about Bowser's Fury here, but 3D World rocks too. This is the best co-op Mario game of them all, and the Switch port is so much better than the Wii U version. The actual game is faster, there's online play, everyone can play the Captain Toad levels, there's just numerous improvements to 3D World. And then Bowser's Fury is just this extra game based on 3D World chucked into the package, and it's the coolest thing you can imagine. So it's based on the building blocks of 3D World, but the actual mechanics are so different. This is open world Mario. You can jump into the ocean, ride on Plessy, go to a platforming island, and try and find all the shines that you can get there. It really feels like an evolution of Mario Odyssey, and while the game's not that long, it's just packed with moment-to-moment greatness. Some of the best platforming Mario's ever had, and it's just so free-flowing and fun to come back to and explore time and time again. I've beaten Bowser's Fury around 5 times now, and that's definitely not going to be the end of it. I need to come back to this game again with the Switch 2 patch.
Wandersong is a platformer, and it's also a narrative adventure. It features a narrative that plays out similarly to a Paper Mario game, where each chapter is relatively disconnected, but the game does tell an overall narrative. You play as a bard. He has no sword, but he does have a weapon: his voice. You'll solve puzzles and platform your way through the world using song. Notes are designated by colors, and you activate those colors by using the right stick. It's genius, it's simple, and the visuals are stunning. It tells a pretty emotional tale, all things considered, and is one of the most treasured memories I have of playing a platformer on Nintendo Switch.
After so many years, the big banana himself finally got a proper, fully 3D platforming title following DK64. Donkey Kong Bananza probably needs no introduction at this point. You are here to break things and devour potassium. The entire foundation of this game was built upon destroying the entire foundation of this game. It plays and feels so right. While the game this team worked on before, Super Mario Odyssey, is also about platforming and finding the next shiny collectible, Bananza manages to freshen up this formula. Accompanied by a younger Pauline, the two set out for the center of this world, breaking through stone, sand, ice, chocolate sprinkles? It's not afraid to get a little weird, considering DK can also turn into an ostrich or a zebra. These transformations give DK new movement and platforming options, assisting in making Bananza much more about the moment-to-moment. There is always something to do, no matter where you are, because there's always likely at least something to smash nearby. Every Banandian gem contributes towards a skill point which can further expand DK's options or make your Bananza power stronger. There is just always something to work for, and despite having less controlled options than Mario typically would, DK moves around this world so fluidly. It's just a joy to play and to see all of these references that harken back to previous Donkey Kong titles up until now. Pauline is also one of my favorite additions here. She and DK share such a sibling kind of bond that you see develop over the game's cutscenes, idle animations, and those quiet moments when resting at a getaway. Easily one of the best experiences I've had platforming in recent memory.
Alright, so this one is kind of cheating. This is Heave Ho, and it was released by Devolver several years ago for the Nintendo Switch, and it's not technically a platforming game. It's actually more like a multiplayer party game in which you do have to reach platforms, so I guess it kind of counts, but this is a very physics-based, kind of just silly, goofy, over-the-top, trying to fling each other onto structures to get to the thing on the other side. So in terms of the actual challenge, it is just platforming, but you have to use momentum and kind of a grasp of the game's physics to make your way onto additional things, and it's just silly. It requires everybody to be working together, which more often than not doesn't work out, but when you do make it, it's incredibly satisfying. I've had so many parties in which we've played this game together, and every time we actually manage to make it to the goal of a stage, we just kind of erupt in celebration, and when we don't, we're laughing the entire time, and what's better than a game that makes you laugh? So if you've never picked it up, go check out Heave Ho, bring 3 friends, you'll have a good time, whether you win or not.
Yooka-Laylee in the Impossible Lair is kind of a proof of concept for me, because I, quite simply, didn't enjoy Yooka-Laylee. I could see the potential in it, but it just didn't seem to come together in any real way, so I was a little nervous to pick up Impossible Lair until it just started getting critical praise, and so I decided to pick it up myself, and Yeah, it's completely deserved. As a lot of people point out, it's sort of the lost Donkey Kong Country game from Rare. It's just an expansion of ideas, whether in the overworld or in the individual levels. And the way what you do in the overworld shifts the levels into being something completely new that's familiar. It's an example of the asset reuse that they were trying to do in the 3D game, put to much better use in Impossible Lair. And the Impossible Lair itself is a legit challenge. You will struggle with this thing no matter how far you get. And I found the entire journey just so fun and enjoyable, and something that truly stands out. Yooka-Laylee might be on the way back, and who knows what we might see after this remake of the 3D game. But you can see that Playtonic still has tons of potential with Impossible Lair.
Have you played the game Grapple Dog? Grapple Dog's awesome. It's a dog with a grapple hook just swinging around in these platforming jungle gyms. But then, have you played the game Grapple Dogs? Grapple Dogs is the sequel, Cosmic Canines, and it's even better than the first game in just about every way. So you've got the core of Grapple Dog with Pablo. He's still a cool little dog swinging and bouncing around. But then there's also Shadow the Hedgehog over here, who has a gun. So you've got that core Grapple Dog formula. But now with the second character who's just going to start blasting things. But it's a really natural extension of the swinging mechanic. So she can't bounce like Pablo can, but she can dash. So there's definitely different reasons to use these characters, and it's the way they work in tandem and how every level is built around each of these dogs that makes it really interesting. And you just get some fantastic platforming stages, some great boss battles, and honestly, it's really fun using that gun. Is it always a good idea to give platforming characters guns? No, but in this instance, absolutely yes. Give all the dogs guns.
Yeah, it's Shovel Knight. Everyone loves Shovel Knight. I love Shovel Knight. Shovel Knight is the perfect love letter to classic NES platformers. You got a little bit of Mega Man in there, you got a little bit of DuckTales, and it all comes together beautifully. Levels can be fairly challenging, forcing you to dig and pogo stick your way around the world, fighting bosses, and collecting treasure, which you can use to buy upgrades. I love me a good upgrade system, and that makes finding treasure feel really rewarding. So go around, dig up everything you can. It's all worth it. I'd say Shovel Knight is not the longest game to 100%, but that's just not true anymore. There are several additional adventures that Yacht Club has crafted and all put together in Shovel Knight Treasure Trove. All of them are good, and they're all worth your time. Shovel Knight is an all-time great indie, featuring one of the most bombastic soundtracks I've ever heard in a classic NES-style platformer. If you haven't played Shovel Knight at this point in your life, you really, really should. There's a remake on the way, so maybe play that.
I know there are some people who would first consider this a run and gun or a shooter even, but Cuphead stands as a challenging 2D platformer that just happens to consist of very difficult boss fights. One of the most distinctive aspects of Cuphead is the art style. The game's characters all run at 24 frames per second, mimicking the standard in American film. Coupled with taking inspiration from classic rubber hose animation styles, you have a game that can easily be mistaken for a classic era cartoon. And hoo boy fellas, do these nefarious ne'er-do-wells pack a punch. As you progress, you'll be facing several bosses, some that change the arena as you battle, requiring you to really focus all of your attention on your footing as much as the bullets coming your way. You're given a unique parrying option where timing your jumps against pink objects will help you fill your meter to perform special attacks and the like. Cuphead also has more traditional 2D platforming stages interspersed here and there, as well as some fights that take place in the sky as you ride on a plane instead, but the core of this game is grounded in platforming during battles. You'll get different options in your weapons and skills as you progress, and there is just never a dull moment. It carries that feeling of analyzing a difficult battle, taking in all the tells while learning just a little bit more with each encounter until finally conquering that boss. There is plenty of that here, and taking down an especially difficult boss is always so satisfying. And of course, there is multiplayer, so you don't need to stress out and suffer on your own. You can bring a friend to share the pain with you. It may not be for the faint of heart, but once you find your groove, you'll be winding up and ready for the next wallop.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is criminally underrated. It's a game that anybody who has played it knows of its quality. It is one of the best Metroidvanias out there. It takes the concept of Prince of Persia and just turns it on its head in so many different ways while still feeling very familiar. And the combat's a lot of fun, and it just stands out as a great game. But if you're just a platforming fanatic, this is also the game for you, because the platforming challenges in this game are really tough, and that makes them all the more fun because you get these new abilities: the wall run, the wall jump, sliding down things, using your time powers, all the different ways it mixes and mingles and makes for some really impressive challenges that are worthwhile to finish to get a lot of the extra stuff in the game that make you more powerful, more ready for things to come later. It's gratifying, and it's a pretty meaty game, much longer than I would ever expect, and just such a fine example of the Metroidvania genre that really doesn't lose focus on its platforming origins. If you've somehow not picked this game up yet, you need to find a way to get a hold of it. It's definitely gone down in price. It is worth playing. This is a hidden gem of the highest quality that unfortunately just did not take off like it really should have. So even if you're just about platforming, you will find a lot to love about Lost Crown, and that's all there is to it. Just play it. Just play it.
And now we have Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Is this the fourth Crash Bandicoot game? No, but it's definitely a great follow-up to the original trilogy. This has everything that made the originals great. It's a return to that linear style of Crash Bandicoot, just being able to push your way forward through a level, get the masks, keep yourself safe, and jump around on these great platforming islands. In Crash 4 though, there's a bunch of new masks, like this one here that slows down time. Vicarious Visions already did a great job bringing Crash back for the trilogy, and that's great on Switch too, but Toys for Bob made something even greater. A truly original Crash game that doesn't feel like a retread of the originals, but instead makes it feel like the series never left and just kept on going. And don't believe what you may have heard about sales, even from Activision themselves. This game sold incredibly well. This didn't really underperform at all. By platforming standards, it's one of the best performing of the entire generation. But of course, it was classified as a marketing failure. For whatever reason, I don't know why. It's so great. They're fools, I tell you. Fools!
A Short Hike is such a gentle game. I think that's the best way to put it. This game falls under the cozy, relaxing category, but I like the word gentle with A Short Hike, because everything this game does is gentle. You're slowly climbing up a mountain to get cell phone reception. The journey can be as long or short as you want. You'll encounter characters who might need help, and there'll be simple things, like a character's lost an item and you need to go find it for them, or you can play little mini games, like Beach Stick Ball, which is just beach volleyball with a cute name. It goes for a cute, stylized, minimalist look, and it perfectly marries the vibe of the game overall. It's a gentle world with gentle vibes. Getting to the top of the mountain and finishing the game isn't really the point. The point is to enjoy the quiet journey.
Alright, listen, nobody told me that we had to keep this to games that release on retail or on the eShop specifically, so I chose my favorite Banjo game that's on Nintendo Switch Online, Banjo Tooie. Nope, not Banjo-Kazooie. For as fantastic as that game is, nobody ever gives Tooie enough love, because honestly, I think it's a game that would have been better received in the year 2025. There are ideas and concepts here that I feel just might have been a little bit ahead of their time. Taking place 2 years after Banjo-Kazooie, we explore beyond Spiral Mountain in the Isle o' Hags. This game begins with every move that you already learned in the previous game, so if you know how to Talon Trot or go flying, you can jump right into it. And one of the main things that I enjoy most is the wide open areas. The worlds might be a bit too big for some, leaving a lot of empty space without much to do, but I kinda welcome it. I think I'm just used to exploring and taking in big open worlds now. And sure, there are some that are much more mindfully designed, but this felt like a world. Grunty's Lair from the first game magically teleported you from place to place, which is fine, but Isle o' Hags is a whole proper island that is contextually linked to each other in multiple ways. We learn new moves that pile on top of the old ones, Banjo and Kazooie can split up, which itself creates a whole new dimension of platforming and puzzles. This was super ambitious. It is a sequel that perhaps asks too much from the player at times, but I enjoy the various ideas and set pieces on display. And if the world is just still too big for you, go to the cheats room and use the Super Banjo code. It increases your movement speed throughout the entire game. might make some platforming a little tricky at times, but hey, I think it is more than a welcome trade-off. And if you still don't like it, I mean, fine, fair enough. Go play the original then.
Man, that's a lot of jumping. Hope you've got the knees for that. Has anyone played all of these games? Is there anyone out there in the comments section that's played every single one of these 30 platformers? If so, I'm gonna give you a thumbs up. And thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.